Hi, you guys. So I am going to go over your practice test with you. I want you to pay careful attention to what I'm doing, and then I want you to look at your test and figure out what you missed. So on the first one, when it says simplify each algebraic expression, I think the very most important thing for you to pay attention to is the signs. So this is 14x, and then we have a negative 10, a negative 18x, and a positive 12. And so when we combine like terms, remember the ones that have the same variable to the same power, we can combine those. But what you have to remember is that because there's a minus or a subtraction sign in front of that 18x, that is really a negative 18x. And so a 14x and a negative 18x is a negative 4x. Okay. And then we also have a subtraction sign in front of this 10 and an addition sign in front of the 12. So that means we are combining a negative 10 with a positive 12, which is a positive 2. Okay, now on the next one, we have a 6, we have an x, we have a minus, and we have a 4. So remember, because there's a minus sign in front of this 4, that really makes that 4 a negative. So when we distribute the 6, we have to do 6 times x is 6x, 6 times a negative 4 is a negative 24, and then we have our negative 10. So at this point, when we combine our like terms, there is no other term that just has an x. So we're going to have a 6x. And then we have a negative 24, and we have a negative 10. So if we're combining a negative 24 and a negative 10, if we're already negative and we go more negative, we're going to have to add these two numbers together, and that would be a negative 34. Okay, now on the next one, we have a 23. We have a minus sign in front of this parenthesis. So what that really means is this is like having a negative 1 right next to the parenthesis. And when you're simplifying expressions, you always distribute first. So the thing that we're going to distribute is this negative 1. We're going to distribute to the 4x. And then because there's a minus sign in front of this 11, that really makes that a negative 11. So a negative 1 times 4x is a negative 4x. Negative 1 times a negative 11 is a positive 11. And now we need to combine that with our 23. So we have a negative 4x, and then a positive 23 and a positive 11 makes a positive 34. Final answer. Okay, now on the last one, there are two things we need to distribute. We need to distribute this negative 6. We also need to distribute this negative 1 here. Remember, if there's a minus sign in front of a parenthesis, it has to get distributed to both. So negative 6 times x is negative 6x. And then this is a negative 6 times by, because there's a minus sign in front of this 8, that really makes it a negative 8. So a negative 6 times a negative 8 is a positive 48. And then we have our positive 7, and now we need to distribute this negative 1 to both of these terms. So negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. This is a negative 1 times by a negative 1x, which is going to be a positive 1x. And now we combine like terms. So we have a negative 6, we have a positive 1. When we combine those, we get a negative 5x. And then we have a 48, we have a 7, and we have a negative 3. So when we combine those, we're going to have a 56, and then, or 55, and then a 55 minus 3 is a 52 final answer. And then on the last one, when you are finding the perimeter is the distance around the outside. So we have to add this, and with this. So our expression looks like this: 2x plus 4x plus 2 plus 3x minus 1. So a 2x and a 4x and a 3x, we can combine all of those because those are like terms. That's going to be a 9x. And then we have a positive 2 and a negative 1, which is going to be a positive 1. Okay, so now at this point, I want you to do the expressions practice test section 1 retest. And then when you're done with that, I'll correct it and go over the answers with you.